Sorry, Joey's dad's fault.
I believe that.
Everybody ready? I'm gonna call the meeting to order. It's 7:02, I think. You're on live with SAPA. Brandon, everything's okay, hooked up?
Yep,
Okay,
it's
good.
good.
Comments from the board on topics not on the agenda. Anybody have anything?
No, sir.
Nothing? Brandon, anything, comment not on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to tell the board there's a couple of grant opportunities available that I'm going to shift my attention to, and Chris is going to shift some of his attention to over the next couple of weeks. One of those is the local government expense reimbursement grant. So that's the grant that we've been kind of waiting for. Towns throughout the state of Vermont. They have $13 million that's available right now for eligible COVID-19 expenses. So that's supplemental from FEMA expenses. Another one, interestingly, is the digitization of land records grant. So I know that.
What is it again, please?
The digitalization of land records grant.
Okay.
So Chris sent that over to me yesterday. And I know the board had put some money aside for this project. But it looks like since COVID-19 happened, it's become a priority to get our land records online. So there's $2 million available right now for that. Another opportunity right now is for the water district. For those municipalities who have loans through the Department of Environmental Conservation, they're waiving the loan payments until May 1st of 2021. So we have a $33,000 loan each year through them. So they're waiving those. That'll give us a little bit of help there. The next is the VOREC Community Grant Program. Another is the Recreational Facilities Grant, the Recreational Trails Grant, and the Department of Buildings and General Services Building Communities Grant. So we're going to be shifting some of our attention to those grants that are available to us.
I'd like to follow up on the digital records. Before Brandon got here, Sven had done some work in the land use office, and the last information that I think that he shared with the board, some 30% was done. So transferred from like properties that were hard copy deeds in the vault to a digital record. And he gave us an update about how much faster that let him work on the process of a permit. So think of it like now on the 70%, he'd get a phone call from a permit, and then the land use would have to walk over to the vault, get the deed, tell the caller that I'll get back to you, and but on those that he had transferred to a disk, he pushed his button on his computer and he came up with that person's, right on the telephone call, that person's spam, I think it's a spam, isn't it the number? Spam, okay. And so it was so much helpful, so much quicker.
Yeah.
So when Brandon texted me and he said, hey, there's a grant coming out of this, I just copied back and I said, yes. So I don't know whether or not we'll get anything, but sometimes on these grants, the window closes fast, and I just said go. So, but that's the last I knew. It was like we were still had, and then we left that position vacant after Sven left for months, and so I think that whole thing has been in neutral. But I think that's a big deal. Did you have a question, Paul?
No, I was just going to make a comment. That more than just the deeds too, it's also any permits that have happened, anything, any of the documents that have to do with that piece of property is on there. Anybody can see it too. It's not just this office and Sven. You can go to the website and click on the GIS section, and you can pull all that up. And absolutely, Sven was working on that. And then when Sven, transferred over to the town manager, we didn't have anybody doing that. And then we went from full-time land use to part-time land use, which then put another nick in that. So I'm definitely 100% behind this, trying to figure out whether we can get somebody to help us or get to get this done, because that's an important thing for the town.
You're finished, Brandon, that's it, okay. My comment was, I asked for, and unless I'm missing something, Brandon, I asked you this morning, but,
Well, it doesn't, so there isn't any,
at the very end here, before any other business, I asked for an executive session personnel for a 6-month performance review of the manager. So that, I'm gonna ask for that at the end of tonight's meeting, unless it's like really late and we'll defer that. But I think it's important for us to meet with Brandon collectively. I know he told me before when he got here that his former employer, they met quarterly to go over things about where we're at different stages, about what we're tasking him to do. I think it's important, so if you can, we'll add that to the end.
Dave, I got one question on
Okay.
the grant. Is that, what's the matching grant, 50/50 or outright? Or not sure?
which one?
The plan, the electronic recording land records.
There's no match requirement.
Go for it. Are there any comments from citizens who are here or have come in online on topics not on the agenda? I hope the agenda was posted, but are there any comments? Anybody have anything? Any questions? Okay.
I have one, Dave.
Okay.
Lynn F.T.
Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to let everyone know that we have the listers filed the grant list on 6/29, and I wanted to thank you for the extension. It only took us a couple of days to finish, but it was greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. And I know that there's been some, we're gonna, I think down the line here, I didn't have a hard copy of this. All of our things were sent online, so I didn't have a hard copy to look at before. But I think a little bit later here, we're gonna talk about the timeline for setting our taxes and getting a little update on, I think Steve did a potential timeline about what that might look like. So, thank you, Lynn. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, let's review the minutes from July 6th. I'd like a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yep, second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes of July 6th, 2020. Is there any discussion? Nothing? Everybody else set? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. We do have at our next meeting at 7 o'clock, there's a publicly warned hearing that was passed on to us by the planning board from a group of voters that are asking for submitted a petition to the town clerk to amend the zoning bylaws. And I just want to remind everybody that that public hearing will be on August 3rd, our next meeting, 7 o'clock. And we were hopeful that it was going to get to the August 11th primary. We found out that we would not meet the day's requirement by law to do that. So we are, this board will hear that and then have about 3 or 4 things to pick from for choices. I'll have Brandon and town council lay that out for us to discuss at that hearing. If you have any questions, call Brandon and ask him about it, but the petition has been printed. It's gone through the process of the planning board August 3rd, 7 o'clock. Next up, to sign the transfer station report. You want to take that, Brandon? I know you guys have been working really hard on this.
Yeah, so I made the changes that we talked about in the previous meeting. So I added joint committee, joint committee introduction, And then I modified the chart for our existing system. And on pages 2, 3, and 4, you'll see some of the improvements that we need to consider, or the joint committee needs to take a look at once that committee is established. And I'm looking for, also attached to this is the FY20 transfer station budget, but I'd also like to include the FY21 transfer station budget. So if the board decides to approve this report, I'll send it out to our neighboring towns. I'll make a motion with the FY21 budget as an attachment as well.
Does everybody understand where we're kind of headed on this? I mean, we're trying to put closure on some different things, but we did have a problem with C&D, and then we closed that down for contractors. They can no longer come in. And we're working with the other two towns. I know there's a consistency of an opinion to have this available for our residents. They want to have a place to put their recyclables. The state is continuing to march to go down to 0 with relationship to the compactor. But that's putting a lot of pressure on the recyclable prices. Brandon, did you have, I think maybe you did you have an idea about, we're going to be an open book between the 3 towns.
Correct.
And I know there was a little bit of talk about setting up a committee and with members from those towns as well, if they were interested. So, you know, I'd be more than happy to send out that invitation. We're going to show them our financial books. We have nothing to hide. It's not part of the general fund or the highway fund. It stands on its own. It's a fee-based thing. We put things out to bid. We do the best we can. Everybody understand all that, Mike?
Make a motion to accept and sign the transfer station report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the transfer station report dated July 20th, 2020 as written. Any discussion?
Do we want to make it to include FY21 budget onto that? Do we have to say that specifically, or?
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Make a motion? Okay. We're adding that as like a friendly amendment. Is that okay for us? You got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? So the motion is to approve the fiscal year 20 and 21 paperwork done on the committee on the transfer station, the transfer station plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next up, discussion about the letter regarding the Fire District 2. I know, John, you called me and asked to have this, and I believe the letter is here somewhere. Yep, on the page. Brandon, why don't you take this? I mean, I know the Water District has taken up some of your time, and we're trying to straighten some things out, so go ahead.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with it. You know, we did use our town letterhead to send out water customers in the Scottney Fire District number 2 a notice, letting them know that we are doing water meter inspections, stabilizing the system, and so forth. The letter stated that this letter serves as our notice to you that the water district has merged with the town of Weathersfield. So I can see how that language would appear that Scottney Fire District number 2 is now a part of the town of Weathersfield. However, they are remaining separate entities. We're just taking over the management of the system. So since then, we have created, if you look in attachment D, we've created letterhead for the Scottney Water District. And in the last meeting of the Prudential Committee, we actually, the Prudential Committee voted to change the name of the Scottney Fire District number 2 to the Scottney Water District. So it simplifies it, sounds like a water district.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
Following that, we're creating email addresses because we're employing a backup water operator, and she's going to training. So to eliminate some of the confusion, when we email or send any correspondence regarding the water district, it will be under the water district's email as well. So an example of that is my first initial, my last name, at scottnewwater.org. And then following the creation of this letterhead, Paul took it from there, and then if you turn the page, he's actually created 10 different logos to put on the letterhead for the Prudential Committee's review in their next meeting. So we'll actually be changing the logo on the Ascutney Water District letterhead to one of these that Paul created. So that's all I have.
Hey, let me
Yep.
explain because I'm a customer of the water district. That when I saw the letter, that was the exact impression I got was that it might be construed that the town had totally taken it over, including the debt service. And I just wanted to make it absolutely clear that we are taking over the management, but not the debt service.
The other thing that I want to know is that and I don't know exactly, Brandon, you can tell me how many people are on the system. Is it like 200, rounding it off, is it like 250 or 300? It's not 300, is it?
No, it's not 300 yet.
So part of when he came to me and asking me about what to do, and then started noting the discrepancy, and then some of the things that were known and lots of things that were unknown. You know, part of me said, I agree with you, John, where, wait a minute, this is, you gotta draw the line between what's the town's business and what is our manager's business.
Yep.
So he came up with the water district, and I'm glad they changed their name as well, because so many people associate this with the fire department, so it has nothing to do with that. So there is a stipend that's going to be paid by the water district to the town manager's position. I think it's in our interest to make sure after this initial wave of whatever that he's doing, and he's doing a really lot, because if he's on the phone to me, he's got to go check all the meters and do this and do that because they don't know where things are. That part of our job will be to make sure that we're being compensated for the time that he's not being manager. So it's for us to keep on the radar. Yes.
Does that include the services we're providing, the accounting services, I guess, or whatever else?
There is some financial, so we're now accepting the role. We're probably in a place where we're trying to be helpful as a town. We cannot have 250 people or 300 people without water. And it's in our best interest to find out what that is, to help grow the town, potentially to add to the grand list. So, but it is a working relationship. They're a separate entity. We are not the town water. It's this particular geographical area. Paul.
Yeah, you hit what I was going to say, was the fact that there's actually money that's getting paid to the town and the town employees to perform this work. So yes, it's in our best interest to make sure that coincides with the amount of work that's being done. I also wanted to say that besides having Suzanne as HR and a little bit of the accounting, Dr. Darlene and stuff doing things, the town manager has always been doing that. The town manager before, Ed, was the water district manager. So that the only thing that's changed a little bit is we got a little bit more employee help here because we brought the accounting system into the town, and Brandon spent an awful lot of time helping us figure out some of our shortcomings and giving us some ideas and stuff. So, but it's a little bit of a change, but some of that's already been happening. So.
Yep.
And there's line items in the budget showing the input
Absolutely,
side
how much of it
from
gets
the town
paid.
and
Yeah.
an outgoing from
Absolutely.
the district.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this?
I like number 3.
What is number 3?
It's the logo.
Oh, the logo.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's a dripping faucet though.
Well, you know.
That's good, means you got water.
And just so you know, you got. I sent this to Brandon today. I didn't know it was even going to be in this packet. This is something that I did not as a select board member. This is something I'm a resident that uses the water. I've been on the water district. I got. I'm kind of a representative for that, but this was just a personal thing that I was doing. They
No, I
might
like
not
it.
even like these at all, so, but nobody on the water district has seen these yet. And so this, I don't know how,
And
it
I'm not
hasn't
in the
even
water
presented yet.
district.
I was playing around at home.
Nice job, Paul.
Thanks.
Indeed.
Okay, number 7, to set a public hearing date for the VCDP grant. This is the 1879 schoolhouse project. It was funded by this grant and is now complete. So part of this means that we set a hearing date for closure. And you see the suggested dates. Doesn't matter which one we want to pick. So if somebody wants to make a motion to make this hearing to set this grant on the 17th of August, I'm all for it.
Make a motion, we set the hearing date for August 17th to close out the loan, the VCDP grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to fulfill our obligation with the VCDP, I'm not sure what all those initials stand for, a grant process for the 1879 schoolhouse for August 17th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Is that okay, John? 7? And we'll put the time in the motion. Here at Myron Hall. Any discussion? Everybody clear on what we're gonna do?
Should be fairly simple.
Yep. You know, but I wanted to put the time and the location.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's go to discussion about the fiscal 21 tax rate. Go ahead, Brandon.
It's a whole page, some of us are old.
Oh, sorry. What was that, Dave?
The number 8, discussion on the proposed FY 21 tax rate.
Yeah, so there have been delays in setting the tax rate in Weathersfield and all over the United States due to COVID-19. We're missing approximately 180 homestead filings compared to previous years. And the listers are waiting to freeze the grand list on August 3rd in hopes of receiving more. This will affect the local remit rate and the need to print corrected tax bills. So printing revised tax bills causes a lot of confusion when somebody receives one tax bill and then we turn around and send them another one. So the hopes are is that the select board would move forward with the following schedule. August 3rd, 2020, set the fiscal year 21 tax rate. August 6th, 2020, mail our tax bills. And September 16th, 2020 would be our first quarterly installment. There's an attachment here, which is the proposed tax rate at this time. It's not finalized. That's all I have.
We're gonna make 2 of the payments fairly close together since we're late.
Well, the select board has the ability to determine what the schedule will look like.
You're right, it's a question, I guess, more.
It depends on what you guys decide.
Either take what's left and chop it up in quarters.
Yes.
Yeah,
That would be
that would be
the
that's
yes.
what I was thinking.
There are towns that are not doing that though. They're thinking about adding a month on the other end or whatever.
Right.
So it's all over the board about what people are gonna do or not do.
Our first payments typically due,
August 10th,
yeah,
or in the middle of
We're only a
August.
month, a little over a month off.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
We don't have to decide all that tonight, but we could consider, like, just some sort of extension maybe on the next payment. Right? We're,
Usually it's
for late, for people
August,
late.
November,
Yeah. But now it's gonna be.
April and March, and then the last one in
Now
May.
it's gonna be September and November.
Right.
So if we just gave people a little leeway on the November payment.
Right.
That they could, you know.
Let's make it at
no.
Christmas.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I want, yeah, well, and so you're right, we don't have to set this yet, but if I don't, this was not a delay, and I know that Lynn had said that they got the grand list done on 6/29, and I've heard before we were doing a delay because the grand list was not in, and so therefore we couldn't do it even now, and here it is the 20th of July. That's not it at all. What it is the grand list is what it is. The only thing that's different is the income sensitivity that
Correct.
would have been printed on people that may have applied for the lower, for Act 68.
Because federal filing date was changed to the
To the
15th
15th.
of this month.
Yeah, but to me, I'm just scratching my head saying, okay, there's 1,700 parcels. To hold up the tax bill for 180 didn't seem to make like a lot of sense to me. It is what it is now.
Well,
I want
also
to-
the state hadn't given the tax,
Yeah, they did. That was
it
done.
is now, but it wasn't.
No, that was done on like July 7th. That's been known for a long time. That's been known for
I thought 2 weeks ago.
Yep, go ahead, Lynn.
I did homestead downloads this morning, and we're down to 106 parcels that did not file this year that did last year. So the number has dropped from 180 to 106.
Yeah, and there's no, so that was year over year. Maybe they didn't, maybe they're gonna miss the deadline. There's no way of knowing until we give them enough time for the state to get that done, right? I mean, at some moment in time, we're gonna have to say, yeah, like any other
We're
deadline.
figuring by the 3rd, those that were filed by the 15th will have been reported to us by the state.
Yeah. I want to make mention of this because it's setting aside all of that. The state came in with their homestead education and non-homestead education, and it's worth noting. It's almost a 15-cent tax increase. All you got to do is read the sheet that Brandon submitted to us. That's a lot of money. Because a penny is $33,000. So, I don't know how this is all going to work out when people pay. But when they look at this bill and they're going to go, uh-oh. Because I've done the math on mine already, and I really didn't like the answer because I knew this. Those were disclosed on the 7th of July. That's a lot of money. Is there any other discussion about the tax rate? We'll be setting the tax bills out. I'm hopeful that it's going to start going, and then it's got to go to print on August 3rd. Okay. Next up, a vote to approve the amended COVID-19 reopening plan.
Move to accept.
Is there a second?
A second.
I have a comment.
The motion been made and seconded to approve the amended COVID-19 phase reopening plan. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Brandon.
I just want to point out that we've held several COVID-19 staff meetings, we've taken several votes, and the consensus of staff is that we make masks in Martin Memorial Hall mandatory. This plan does represent that same mandatory masks in Martin Memorial Hall. Inside the packet is our letters from Flo Ann, Steve Heyer, Carolyn Heyer, and Lynn Esty, voicing their concern about requiring masks at Martin Memorial Hall. So I just wanted to ask if the select board in the motion to accept the phased reopening plan also include in the motion the requirement of masks.
My comment is that Brandon, I'm not really sure what this board wants to do or not do. We can do it if we'd like to, but there was an email that went out that said that Brandon called me about this and asked me, and I said, well, if the people are going to feel uncomfortable, and the majority signified that they were, that they would like to see a mask, that we follow that. And as emergency management person, I also conferred with Brandon, who's the health officer. And I said, I think that we should be making this move then. And so I signed on to it. So after that, I did get the email that Brandon sent. And then I called Ray and I said, you obviously have read this and that the crew, works all outside. I didn't want to do that as much as it was in the buildings or in any close quarter to make people feel more comfortable. It's an individual thing, but if you're in close quarters, it's probably a good thing to do.
Can't go in Walmart now without masks.
So there's more and more that are starting to do that. So, great.
One thing you left out was the transfer station. Those guys are required to wear masks while they're working. just try different varieties, finally got one that works, which is kind of expensive.
And that's another that's noteworthy, the point that, I mean, if I put this on right now and I need my glasses to read, all of a sudden they fog right up. So there is some downside to this. I wish there would be a little, and I've seen them online, now I think this is getting into a money-making scheme, where there's a little bit of a netting where it allows the glasses not to fog up. So we're all getting into this, you know.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Paul.
Before any amendments made, Brent, the recommendation that you're asking for to wear masks, and is that all the time for all employees and everybody that comes in, or once you get to your desk or get to your seat like this, you can take it off, or what? How is that?
So we've discussed this during our COVID-19 staff meetings, and you wear the mask into the building, and once you get into your personal space, your office, you can then take the mask off if you feel comfortable. The only exception to that is when Steve Hire and Darlene are working together. They can't be 6 feet apart, so they wear their masks. And everybody in Martin Memorial Hall feels comfortable with that. Lynn, do you have any comments on this?
No, but I would like, Brandon, if you could read the emails out that were sent to you.
Why?
I already issued the order for the, as emergency management, I signed on to Brandon's plan to reopen. These emails are kind of long, Lynn, and no one's really arguing against not doing it. We're supporting the move.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to micromanage how the office is run.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to be clear about what how much the mask would be worn. I'm all for wearing masks. I have no problem with that, myself personally. But that's like you said, everybody's opinion.
I'll be really quick to add that if circumstances change, then I'm sure that Brandon's going to call me or whatever when I get these daily updates from the state. And we all don't know what's going on at any one particular time. We may revert back to having the public be excluded from Martin Hall and have to call by appointments to do business like before. I mean, that's not the end of the world. So the things are a little bit in flux about what's going on. We're trying to reopen. We're trying to do things.
It seems to me the employees are having a conversation about how they want to protect themselves.
Yep.
They've figured out what they want to do.
Yeah.
Let them do it.
Agreed.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the amended COVID-19 phase reopening plan.
I have one other quick question, if that's
Okay.
okay. And I just because I didn't read word for word, is there anything in the policy right now about if you've been to an area that is a higher risk factor area, or you've been out of the state for a period of time, or that any of that we mandate a quarantine thing, or is it just following whatever the state's got, or how does that?
Yeah, we're following the state's guidance. So there's certain areas that we can travel to, and you know, in New England and in Massachusetts, there's one county that we can travel to, Plymouth County.
Okay.
And then if you want to travel to other states, as long as they match where you're leaving from, so they have to have a similar COVID-19
Okay.
and where you're coming from.
Yep.
One of my emergency management emails was, and there is some positive things going on. I mean, New York is declining rapidly, and then I did put out this other line with so much cleaning going on. We're cleaning like we never cleaned before, folks. I mean, we're washing our hands, using bleach, using all this stuff. We're going to actually cut down the germs, set aside COVID-19. So I honestly think there's going to be less colds and everything going on because of all the cleaning. I mean, I walk around to some of these stores and, you know, there's somebody like right behind you with something washing down where you touch to get in the door. That's never happened.
Right. The flip side of that is it does lower your immunity to certain germs and whatever if they're not there, and then when you do get exposed to it, you really get it. So.
Did you have a question, Jim?
Yeah, down here, are we opening this up to the public anytime soon, and what will be the status of the use for the downstairs?
So in our amended COVID-19 phase reopening plan under C, community use of Martin Memorial Hall, we were going to review this again at the end of July. We reviewed it in the previous meeting, The consensus of the meeting was to review it again on August 27th.
So the answer is no,
So right now,
at this moment.
the downstairs is still closed to the public, right?
Correct, except for
Meetings.
meetings.
Okay.
Here we can, when there's a health officer here, and people are trained and so forth.
Okay.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the amended COVID-19 reopening plan for Martin Hall. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Discussion about noise ordinance and enforcement, number 10. Chris, or Brandon, one of you two can take this over, please.
I'll go ahead and take it. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. For those who don't know, I'm Chris Whitten. I'm the land use administrator for the town of Weathersfield. I took office on April 7th, 2020. Weathersfield currently has a noise ordinance in its bylaws that is sufficient for the public on notice of performance standards applicable to their parcels and the prescribed behavior. It's my duty as a zoning administrator to conduct investigations into alleged violations and issue notices of violation when they occur. I've received multiple complaints regarding noise on several different parcels throughout town. When I issue a notice of violation, it's a civil enforcement measure, and it's not criminal. Thus, only a preponderance of the evidence that a violation has occurred is required. And in that spirit, zoning administrators are authorized to conduct decibel ratings for notice of violation. I refer to docket number 2016 Vermont 99 in 2016 for the Vermont Supreme Court. The case is called In re L'Auberge. In that case, the zoning administrator took a noise measurement with a complaining property owner or the property owner's personal decibel reader, issued a notice of violation to L'Auberge, arising from a motocross track on the property in Heinsberg. The court affirmed the lower court's enforcement of the notice of violation and explained that in such cases, its practice was to allow a property owner who had purchased and used a sound meter to explain how well they knew how to operate it and how they operated it during the time of concern and what results the meter showed. The court noted that it would afford the readings the appropriate weight based upon the credibility of the testimony. And to build on that, commercial decibel readers are sufficient to provide evidence of a noise violation, and I refer to document number 45-3-12, In re Big Rock Gravel Quarry Act 250 permit, and that was in the Vermont Superior Court in the Environmental Division in 2012. In that case, an applicant applied for a quarry provided evidence from a commercially purchased decibel reader, which the court accepted the readings. However, the court commented on the applicant's lack of training in the use of the reader, citing his inability to distinguish between dB and dBA readings. I have completed a diligent search for the previous decibel reader that we have owned in town. I've looked for it. I can't find it anywhere. Nobody seems to know where it is. I've asked multiple people. And without a decibel reader, I'm unable to establish evidence to support or enforce a notice of violation. So without that decibel reader, I can't even issue a notice, and we basically have a moot bylaw. The cost of a decibel reader ranges anywhere from $300 to $6,000. And the maximum fine for a noise violation under 24 VSA 4451 is $200. The town of Woodstock also has a bylaw, which I found really interesting, that each time a police officer is called to the scene of a noise complaint, it's constituted as a separate violation. We don't have that bylaw, but I just thought that was really interesting to look in there. And because of that, I request that, because I'm unable to find it, because I've had so many complaints and I'm unable to really issue a notice of violation, which is in my job description, I request that the select board authorize the purchase of a new decibel reader. I mean, it'll pay for itself if I get a $300 one, it'll pay for itself for 2 violations.
We also need to take it over to the planning commission and correct that bylaw. Gil Whittemore was still with us when we crafted that bylaw, and it kind of was written the way it was to reduce neighbor feuds. You know what I mean? It might be. Yeah. So anyway, the language that's in the bylaw states that it has to be done by a certified technician that's certified and using a certified decibel meter and stuff like that. That stuff we'll have to correct over at the planning commission and take care of that. I think other than that, the standards and stuff that exist in the law pretty much stay. Those are
So
okay.
I think we'll probably have to look at the decimal levels too sometimes.
We had done that.
Yeah, but it's an ordinance, not,
No, this is zoning bylaw.
there's
multiple things.
there's an ordinance
Multiple
also.
things.
Am I
Yes,
right, Chris?
yes.
I thought it was one and the same,
No.
but I could be
No,
mistaken.
no, I know what John's talking about. The noise in the nighttime ordinance.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's-
that's
Okay.
just the law.
No, it's Weathersfield ordinance. It's called noise in the nighttime.
Can we
Not
break
sure
this,
what's hiding.
can we break this down into two components? So it sounds like there may be a little confusion on the wording, whatever's in the town zoning or planning or whatever, right? So can we just figure out that the planning board, we have two people here
I'll
now,
take-
so we'll just figure that out.
I'll take
The
that.
the second thing is some kind of a piece of machinery. And then before we came up on all this and before the meeting got underway, there was talk that, that we do have one. Now, but I don't know exactly if Chris didn't ask the right person or whatever. So if we could, I don't think we need to buy one tonight, because the first question that I had would be, there's a significant range here from $377 to $6,000. So the first thing that ran into my mind was, okay, if we buy one that comes from Cracker Jacks, it's not gonna hold up in some civil thing about some test, as opposed to the one that like is used to measure the blasting at an Act 250 thing. Well, that's a professional model that stands up in court. So there's a big range here to think about.
Did the court case you just cited, did they cite the machine?
No, it was just a commercially purchased decibel reader. That's all it was. It didn't say what model it was, but I mean, it was, through the cases that I saw, it was all commercially purchased one. It wasn't like some sort of professional came down from, NASA and took care of it,
That could be
But
my
I can hear,
$50 one.
but I can really hear, if you sit on the other side, let's pretend for a moment that each of us are the person that's being accused of making too much noise. The first thing they're gonna pick apart is, yeah, you came and tested me with like a pop gun. Of course that's gonna work. So I think that that'll be challenged. John?
The one thing that actually just recently, and actually was printed in the shopper, was Rockingham just passed a new ordinance, and it doesn't mention decibels at all. I read it and I thought maybe this would work better for us, because let's face it, noise stops. So but you get out there with your decibel meter, the noise has stopped, what are you going to record? And that puts somebody in a position of having waiting for the noise to come back. It's a little bit different. If somebody's just letting off firecrackers indiscriminately, they're going to stop when they know you're out there. So if we could come up with something that didn't have
Can I speak to
decibels.
that issue, what John just said?
Sure. For the record, could we have your name, please?
I'm Richard Musback. I live at 4275 Route 131, and what John said is a perfect example of what my neighbor Bert and I put up with across the road.
Yep.
The noise occurs on the weekend. He was here first. It's not that loud. A decibel meter may or may not provide enough noise to prove that it's objectionable or not. But it's very obnoxious, extremely obnoxious for 6 to 8 hours a day.
What is it?
Motorcycles, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, all kinds of equipment. It's been going on for years. I've addressed this as far back as DeForest Beers with this guy. And he's been cited multiple times. I addressed this board last year at this time, and it hasn't been addressed in such a way as to lessen the problem. And it's only one of the two problems with the property. The other one's going to be addressed next month. So this is a noise issue where a decibel meter may prove him innocent, but in fact it's so annoying for when you go in your house and you listen to it, you can't go anywhere on your property. And he's in the same situation, and other neighbors don't want to speak out because they're afraid of incrimination. So the decibel meter to me may not be a worthy purchase, because who's going to use it on the weekend? Is this a 7-day? Is Chris Whitten? Well, Chris, you probably would come out on it. But when he shows up in a truck, and you've already met the guy, he shows up in the truck, the noise stops. What are you recording? You're recording silence. Well, not silence on Route 131, but you know, the problem will go away temporarily. And then it's basically back to the same thing. And I like motorcycles, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to listen to this crap 6,
I
8
know
hours
what
a day.
I know what you're doing. They're mostly kids too, right?
No helmets, they're coming out on the road now sometimes, and I don't know what can be done about it, but I suppose that's your position as board members to take care of that, or Chris.
Paul, hold it. We got a lot of hands. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, just to address that, as far as, we've looked at many different things through the planning commission, through the ordinances, through some of that stuff, but it's come back to, like John said, that would probably be like a reasonable and customary noise for the area, for the time of day, for that is what we would call that. The problem with that is, who's to say the reasonable customary? You're gonna say it's no, the people that are with their motorcycles are going to say, hey, yeah, well, I work all day, so I want to come home and I want to ride my bikes at night. The decimal level stuff is something that's is more of a managed thing. Like you can put a number to something. I don't know what's right. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying we've had those conversations. That's some of the thing is, I don't know how that would hold up in a court of law if you put a bylaw that just said, well, what fits, or an ordinance of what fits the time of day and time of night. The other thing would be actually having enforcement of that. And yeah, I think we have the ordinance where the police officer goes out. You call the cops go out.
They don't.
Well, then that's a whole separate issue. But anyways, we do, the police officer here in town, from my understanding, had a sound meter because he's taken sound measurements before. From my understanding, I don't want to speak for him because he's not here, but I really thought that had happened. And when I started on the planning commission, we had a sound meter, but to your point, it's hard to figure out because the way some of the bylaws are set up, not the ordinance, but it's depending on what it's zoned for here, what it's zoned for here. You know, if it's village to village, it's one thing, but if it's village to industrial, then it's the time of the day and so on, and it's 1 foot from a property line and that kind of stuff. But that's, I would go back to with Chris and try to figure out what's going to hold up in a court of law, because that's where we want to be at, I would think, so that we have some teeth in something and not just a generalized statement on that. So I don't know if everybody agrees on that or not, but.
Can you, I still want to break this down to two things, and one would be the equipment and the next would be the ordinance itself. So Brandon, can you, I'm writing down here the follow up on number 10 to, can you get us copies of the ordinance, the actual what's in place now, and to make sure we have that to read, so whatever that is, and maybe there's some wording in there right now that we're missing. It sounded like Chris didn't know that we had something, I don't know what it was, whether it was in an ordinance somewhere that dealt with noise or something. I know we
after 10 o'clock at night.
I know we have something. So, and then the second thing would be to I know that you said you've asked the number of people to follow up about where one was. The one that I thought that we had predated the one before the meeting started that John said that Jim Mullen had bought, and I didn't know about that one. So I guess, Brandon, I'd leave it up to you to do a double check to find out if, in fact, we have anything to do with noise machinery in town. I don't know whether Bill might be helpful, Bill Daniels, I don't know. So can we make one last sweep, and then we'll put this back up on the agenda, or the planning board can take some of this wording issue up, okay? But I'd like to see the existing ordinance as it is now.
Because if I was a resident and the complaint was against me, the question I would ask is, how old's the meter? When was the last time it was calibrated? And when were you certified blast to be able to use it and to actually, you know, so those are the things that I would say that you would have to have. You know, a certified, calibrated, and a certified person to take the measurement.
Chris?
I believe those standards, as far as certification goes, is for criminal matters, for criminal enforcement.
Okay, not for
Yeah,
civil.
yeah, it's civil enforcement,
Okay.
it's notice violation.
Okay.
All I have to do is establish the promise of the evidence,
Okay.
which is why the court has said that a commercially purchased one is okay with established preponderance. It's not
Okay.
beyond reasonable doubt.
Sorry, I missed that. You did say that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And as far, again, reiterate the measurement, as far as the, when the person is being complained about, the proposed violator, if you will, like for example, in your case, if I were to come to take a measurement of your neighbor, I would go to your property, so he would have no idea that I was there. I mean, that's you know, so it's not like I'm gonna show up to his property and take measurements from him. So I would show up at your property and 1 foot from your border is where the measurement would take it, so we have no clue that I'm there. So he would continue on with his behavior, and still get the measurement, which would give me the, you know, the evidence that I need to issue these notices of violation to get him to stop.
Well, I live right on the road, and he's right across the road. I don't know how you're gonna do that without,
1 foot from your property and on your side. So if your line's on 131, I would get right on your line, walk back 1 foot, take that measurement from there.
I think what he's saying is he'll see you coming, so he'll probably stop doing what he's gonna do.
Did you have a question, Mike?
More points, actually. I think the case that Chris is talking about, we listened to that from Sven at the
Yeah.
Planning Commission, and it had to do with exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost in court.
Yeah.
Not the people that were complaining, the people that were riding.
right.
Right.
They were stopped. That's the case that he's talking about. So there is a possible resolution to this issue. I would suggest we follow the court case. And
Chief Daniels tried to intercede here, and he tried to effect a compromise, because he called me on the phone last year, but the compromise doesn't work because of the individual question.
what do you want to do about the purchase? You want to wait another 2 weeks,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, because if I'm hearing that somebody's remembering that we have one, and I just heard maybe that somebody said the police have one.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
don't
not
speaking for the police
I,
chief.
no, I know that. I'm just hearing some
But
things.
what I'm thinking is we could authorize the town manager to look into this, and if you can't find one, go get one.
Yeah.
You know, up to, and spend up to,
500.
yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So we could, that way we're done, at least as far as that, we'll put it in Brendan's hand. If you can't find the thing, go buy one.
Right.
And from what I've, so I had a discussion with Chief Daniels today, and he says that we do have one, but it's a $40 one, so it's similar to.
It's not talking about it, though.
It's a
Well,
radio
I got one
shack,
on here
real
too,
estate.
but
But I would request the board.
it's a $100 phone, so it actually worked pretty good.
But I would just request, instead of 500, maybe make it 800 or 900, just in case
It's just
it exceeds, so we don't have to come back again. But we will be looking for the most competitively priced and reliable municipal reader.
I would add to it, the question or point of recording came up. I would see if you can get one that has a digital recorder built into it. Because dB is all measured, and whatever that thing perceives as a dB meter at 1 watt, 1 meter, up, out, away, can be recorded and seen on a VU meter. Okay, so you don't have to, so you don't have to just sit there and look at the needle. You can have a recording, so you could actually place this thing and leave it there overnight or for several days and get a recording of an event. If that's it, now we may be talking the $6,000 unit. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna wrestle us in. So are we all set with trying to get a copy of the ordinance, right? The wording of the ordinance, and then I don't even know what it says right on. So it's not unfair to say, well, we need this. It may already be in there. Somebody has just skipped over and not yet. The second has got to do with the potential purchase of a meter. That's going to require a motion on the floor, because I'm not going to accept that, because, well, I'll accept the motion, you guys want to do it, but I'm going to vote no, because I'm hearing, at least at this stage, that we may have something that will work and somebody just doesn't know where it is. And I'm hearing too much loose, how about $400, and then Brandon says, nah, how about 800 or 900? This is way across the board with too much information for me. So I'm going to oppose that, but if you guys want to make a motion to authorize it, knock yourself out.
First of all, I can say that the ordinance does give the dB readings and spells out the testing and all of that. The only thing that's in there is it says it has to be done by a certified sound technician or somebody certified in the use of. That was something Gil wanted. Yeah. but it is in the language that a dB meter be used to get this information. So Again, I'm fine with given, personally, I'll make a motion to allow up to $800 for the purchase of a sound level meter, preferably with a digital recording ability, provided the town manager can't locate the existing unit.
I'll second that.
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that motion, provided we
And maybe if,
Huh? The motion been made and seconded to do what Mike said. Which is to authorize up to $800, I guess, to find some digital recording device, provided that he provided that he can't find the one we already have.
A DB meter with digital recording ability, provided that the town manager can't locate the one that we supposedly have. That's, if we've lost it or somebody walked away with it, that's,
Is there a second?
yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
second.
Motion been made and seconded. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth. DeForest, did you get that? About what?
I have allowed $800 to purchase a sound meter, preferably with digital recording ability, in the event that the town manager is unable to locate the one meter that we have.
Correct. That sounds good.
Any other discussion? My comment is that's the horse gone without the cart, so I'm opposing it. But all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 2 to 3.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that we're not gonna, for me, that doesn't mean that we're not gonna buy one. I just wanna figure out whether we have one.
Excuse me, could you,
2 to 3.
okay, 2 in favor?
Yep.
And 3
Yeah, just
opposed?
Mike and I.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I want to remind people that I want to bring this back up because the follow-up of this, of number 10.
point of order, DeForest, correct me, if it's a split vote, aren't you supposed to record who voted what?
It's not a
No,
roll
only-
call vote, but you can do a roll call vote and then we would.
Okay, that's right, on roll call, that's right.
But just
Does
2 in
any,
favor and 3 opposed is
Okay.
does any board member ask for a roll call?
No.
For you?
Nope.
Okay.
I want to, if we find one, I want to know what it is. I want the spec sheet on it and find out, is it a $40 one or is it a $500 one?
I mean, even
Kind of, yeah,
if
that's
we
all.
do
If
find,
you find it.
if we do find the one that John's talking about, we will need to get it recalibrated because it's been so long since anybody's had it. So that would be a cost that we would
You
have
know,
to incur.
we'll put that together and bring it back to the board.
Right.
Can we, I'll put this on for the next meeting agenda,
There you go.
but I want some more information, okay? Some hard information. I don't like this 377 to 6,000. I want one that's gonna be acceptable, do your homework, whatever, then you'll make sure that you either found it or you didn't, whatever.
Yep.
Okay, good, let's move on.
I'd like people just to show a little consideration for their neighbors rather than have Chris Whitten go out there and tell them that they have to behave themselves because they're too irresponsible to do it otherwise. I mean, if I was committing this kind of problem and somebody called me and said, don't run your chainsaw till noon, you know what? I'd stop until noon. It's not that hard to be cooperative with people. This isn't the wild blue yonder, it's part of the New Hampshire grants anymore. People live all over these, everybody's cheek by jowl with their neighbors. And noise doesn't respect property lines. That's the problem with the decibel reader. Okay? Because when you crank on a Harley there, I could be a mile up on Mount Scottney and it reverberates through that valley, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
He's hard to hear and he can hear it in his garage. This is extremely annoying.
I literally have to take my hearing aid out while I'm working inside my garage. That's how bad it is.
Well, I've got it on for the next agenda too, so we're not losing it.
Well, I thank you for letting us address it
Yep.
anyway.
Yep,
And
thank
then
you.
there's another issue that Chris has brought
Yeah,
up that will
we'll address
be
it.
initiated the 15th of next month, supposedly, the same property.
You want Karen?
Yeah, to say the least.
Okay,
So that's next month, but thank you for your, for your hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Number 11, discussion employment of a town assessor. This came up last year when Ed Morris was here as a proposal that he wanted to, for us to look at. And I asked Brandon, you know, what he thought or whatever. We got the information, and I'm not sure where the status of Carolyn Iris had given her information that she was going to retire, but I haven't talked to Carolyn, so that's, I believe they're on vacation, so that's not part of it. But this was Ed's proposal, and some of these things need to either be brought forward in a plan or not. And Brandon, I'll let you take over.
So I just want to make a correction to the memorandum that I provided to you as of August 27th, 2020.
That couldn't
So,
Okay, that hasn't happened yet.
So, correction 2019, but on August 27th, 2019, former town manager Ed Morris recommended moving the lister's positions to an appointed assessor position. Like David mentioned, he brought this up to me, so I did a little bit of research, and I found Mr. Morris's report to the board. He made 5 key points. He said the change must be approved by the select board and then voted by the voters at the next town meeting. The position may need a part-time assistant with a transition that can be reviewed periodically to determine if it needs to continue. Over the last 5 years, the listers have averaged 15 grievances, and during the last reappraisal, there were 117 grievances. Grievances should be heard by an appointed assessor and his or her assistant. The hourly pay for said position should be between $23 and $26 per hour. In addition to that, if the board so chooses to move forward with this proposal, I would recommend 3 more things, and that's 1, to replace the board of listers with the board of assessors, to review the draft job description that I've attached as attachment A as a starting point. Request that the listers review the description of the town manager to fill in any gaps, and create a search committee made up of both town officials and the general public to interview and make recommendations to the select board on the appropriate candidate, with the town manager weighing in on his recommendation separately. So we have a draft job description here. The job description is outlined in the position, the responsibilities and essential functions. On page 2, it goes into the job environment, supervision, recommended minimum requirements, education and experience requirements, physical requirements, special requirements, and so forth. Anybody have any questions?
This was more of a thing on the agenda to ask if the board wanted Brandon to continue to research this as a you know, kind of a long-term thing or not, because I want to make sure, and I'm not secretive of this, later on when we go into the meeting with him about what we want him to do and not do as a board. This is all open session stuff, and part of our problem as boards is to give them too much to do and then somehow not complete stuff. You know, like 10 things. So we want to make sure that we pick things that are going to get done if they are, or put it on the shelf, or just not even take it up. So one of the things I know that Ed had talked about was the sequence of this, and I think that he was because the listers are elected, then we'd have to go to the voters to, if an assessor was going to do all that work, then that we would not have that need to have them, and the town would have to vote on that, whether they do or not. And that happens only in town meeting day in March. So that's an important point. I do think, though, and I don't know the status of Carolyn, who's been absolutely terrific to this town over, I don't even know how many years. I mean, every time I call her up.
27 years.
Yeah, every time I call her up, she has my, like, and I don't call her that often, but she has my parcel number, like, in her head saying, you know, oh yeah, that's like 034, she's like a computer. So, and that's not going to be replaced. And so I think there may in fact be a place for the listers to do some work, but I also think that there may be a place for a person that may have some hours to do as an assessor. So I don't necessarily think that we need to go before the voters, because if people were looking for part-time jobs, as is now happening with listers, that could be filled that way. So what does the board want Brandon to do? Do you want to just keep researching this, or what is the feeling? Anybody want to jump in? Paul?
Just the time frame, like, I just want to make sure, I mean, we have the listers, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. In the beginning, Ed did make it sound, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but Ed did make it sound like they were okay with that. Then when we got the letters from them, it was a little different. So I just want to, they're here and they do an excellent job, and like you said, you call up and it's like they know you, and you made that comment before, Dave. It's kind of nice to have that versus who's this guy looking around. You feel comfortable with him. So I just want to know what if possible, what the plans might be, and then how soon to have. I wouldn't look to do anything right today or this year or next year or whatever, but I do think it's eventually going to happen. I wanted to see what our time frame was based on what the listers had right now, what they thought. That's all.
And I don't know the status of Carolyn's potential retirement. The last that I ever heard was June 30th at the end of the year. But then we had this grand list postponement and everything to do with our tax bills, and she felt obligated to continue on.
Okay.
That may change. I'm not really sure. John.
One aspect
So,
that
Dave, can I give you a couple of corrections on some numbers you read to begin with?
Just a second, John.
This is Lynn.
Just a second, John's got the floor.
Okay,
Go ahead.
lost my train of thought.
sorry.
No, when Ed brought this up, there was discussion, close your ears, Chris, of combining the land use administrator and lister, because it just didn't seem to be, the numbers didn't work without combining the
It was
line item.
Full-time.
Right, full-time
Land use.
benefited
Land use.
position. So I think we need to at least think about that. I agree with Paul that eventually we're going to go that way, because some of these elected positions that may have worked 150 years ago probably aren't the best idea right now. I mean, town treasurer is an elected position. I could run, but I don't think it would be in the town's best interest for me to be treasurer.
Well, one of the things that I know that Ed was talking about was how the land use kind of ebbed and flowed. So to fill the low spot of what the land use was doing, Sven was digitalizing these records.
Mhm.
So he was doing, when no permits come in, let's face it, there's really not much to do. But you can't control that when you're on the payroll. So that was what he was doing on top of the potential retirement. So I'm not sure. Lynn, go ahead. You wanted to make some points?
So we sent out 100 and something notices of changes. We've only had 11 actual grievances, and only one of them is being forwarded to the Board of Civil Authority.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead. Yep.
I just happened to notice this was on the agenda tonight. No one has talked to Carolyn and I about this in months since Ed's been gone. Carolyn has decided to semi-retire. She's still coming in 1 day a week, and I am working currently 4 days a week to make sure that all the work gets done, and she's turning over a lot of the daily duties to me. So, and she comes in 1 day a week to do what she wants to do and to continue to keep active.
And I
she
get.
was there for.
Yep, and I guess but I guess we're gonna. Well, my thought is, and I've asked the board what they want to do with it, is to have that you know, I was very careful. When I was speaking about it, I did not say what Carolyn was doing or not doing, because it's, you know, I want her to say what she's doing or can do or doesn't want to do. So it's our job to, I know it's an elected position, but we also, there's a task to do, which we, at the table here, undergo the budget process to fill the role. So I guess that's it. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Lynn, I think first of all, the first thing, the numbers that you're talking about, specifically says in the memorandum that it was the last reappraisal. That was quite a while ago.
The last reappraisal was done in 2008.
Yes.
We sent a letter to the board asking about a new reappraisal just before COVID hit, and we're asked to put it on hold. We still would like to go forward with that.
Okay, I understand that, but the number is what it is, 117 grievances from the last reappraisal, not the work that you guys have been doing recently. So I agree, you know, I think that's fine. The conversation, as I recall, again, I think this started at the Planning Commission. Ed came in with Sven with a proposal to us to ask us what we thought. And again, this had to do with the land use going back to part-time, and he was talking about combining those two roles so that the land use would be full-time, but part of that would be the assessor position and an assistant for the assessor. Dave brought up before anything can be done, I mean, it's difficult. We can't do this year, because the first thing you gotta do is go to the town and ask the voters if they wanna change this. So you gotta kind of have a plan on what that would look like to present to the voters in order for them to be informed voters about the direction you're trying to go. So you wouldn't be able to do this right away, anyway.
Only if it's, well, we've already passed the budget for this year, so the money is what it is.
Yes.
But if you're not changing the lister's position, then the answer is no.
But that's, if you're not changing the lister's position, you're right, then you're not doing anything.
If you're increasing the role of land use, which is what Ed was doing, you don't need voter approval. They're a hired individual.
No, the assessor, the change to the assessor position, there was another part of that. Ed was coming to us to talk about the fact that being elected persons, the listers, they don't come under the management of the town office. The town manager doesn't have control over them. That's not...
Correct. The majority of the rules we follow are state statute.
Correct.
But where with the money?
I understand that. That was Ed's point. I don't really have control of that office. Is that what you want or not? And that was the point that Ed was making. I'm not taking sides one way or the other. I'm just trying to point out that that's what Ed was talking about as town manager. I don't have control of that office because they're elected officials. They're not employees.
What does the, I mean, we obviously, this is a longer term thing, but does the board have interest in having Brandon do some more research on this to find out what it is or not?
Yes, I do.
It's just a,
Yes.
you know, we're in discussion. This isn't about making decisions
Right.
or anything like that. So I'm just trying to figure out where people want to
I
be.
mean, is it something that looks like it is a combined position or not? Is the assessor a sole standalone part-time or full-time position? There's all kinds of questions. Is there one assistant, two assistants? I think you mentioned, do we keep the listers and have the listers work with an assessor? I don't know all those answers.
I don't think that the model that Ed used was going to make that particular assessor an elected position.
No,
It wasn't.
no.
Right.
It wasn't.
Going to be an hourly employee.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So, similar to what the land use administrator is now. They're not elected.
That's correct.
They're, the name is forwarded to us through the planning commission, and then we work from that, this board.
So all
It's-
of
I've heard from you, Joey, let's go around the
Yeah.
table and move
I've
on.
got, I've got a couple dumb questions. How is your average person in town gonna benefit from us making this move and spending the money versus just continuing with the people we have? My personal experience with the listers has been great. I've seen them quite a bit. They know how to do their job. To me, it seems like we're trying to fix something that's not really broken right now, and we have
Thank you.
bigger fish to fry than this.
I don't have any information other than what we were given 6 months ago, and I'm not gonna go out on a limb, and I don't wanna pick on Lynn, but she was kind of saying what Carolyn wanted to do. That's all news to me right now. So to have somebody say, well, I just only wanna be in here for an hour a week, and then I'm not really retiring, that's news to me. So I want Brandon to be able to ask those people what they're doing for the foreseeable future, not for this week or next week, but for a year. And so now I'm hearing that maybe I don't want to retire, but that's really unfair because I don't even want to talk about an individual. Because how the listers got in the position, they decided to stick their hand up, and then God bless them that they've stuck in there. Well, Carolyn, I just heard, was in there for 27 years. I know Frank Brown used to do it. So that's where this whole thing was coming out of. I know that Ed was looking ahead where somebody wanted to retire. Is there somebody else out in the public that wants to be a lister? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that. I'm in favor of letting Brandon find out from the individuals what is their schedule, what they're doing, and then let him report back to us. That's what I'd like to see. Does anybody else want to make a comment on this?
I can respond to Joey.
John?
I guess if I was gonna put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for Brandon's priorities, with 10 being the highest, I'd put it down around 4. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. I don't mind doing a little bit of preliminary research, but he's got a ton of balls in the air right now, and I don't put this one anywhere near the top.
I just think that it's an easier thing to get some kind of a finite answer on people's work schedule, that's all.
Yeah.
That's fine.
This isn't gonna be, I don't think this is like plowing 10 acres. Are we all set then? We're just gonna let Brandon try to figure this out, and then he'll move forward with us, a report of what might happen. Let's go to a discussion on bylaw definitions. Was this gonna be for Chris, but he's gone, or?
So Chris submitted the attached pages of definitions for review and approval by the select board. Over the past couple of months, these updates have been properly noticed and warned. Hearings were held, a vote was held by the planning commission to approve the definitions as they appear in the attached document. So Chris attached all of the definitions following that page.
Did you have a question, Paul?
I have a comment. I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into this, but at our last meeting, one of the things we asked was, do the definitions need a hearing? Because when we came to the agreement of what the definitions were and finalized it and voted on it, we, the planning commission, had not had a public hearing on the definitions.
Correct.
So there was some talk about bylaw versus definitions, or is everything the same? 'Cause these are just definitions, but I personally feel that I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into it. I don't know legality, but I think this needs to go back to the planning commission. The planning commission needs to have a hearing on this and then come here. That's just mine. I want to let Mike speak on that just because I know he's on the planning commission. And to Chris's defense, we did talk about this going, so he hasn't done anything wrong. Just I don't know if we completely figured out where we were standing with this per se. Yeah. Am I right, Mike? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay.
Quiet.
Do we, there's no way to like push a
Mute button.
mute or something. Yeah.
Come on.
This we don't need to hear.
Bye.
This is on for discussion anyway, so there really
Yeah.
wasn't a vote on whether
Okay.
we accept these. So
Okay.
it's not we're not voting on this for tonight. So is that,
Hi.
I mean, can you do that, Brandon? Take care of that noise. Mike, did you want to comment about this or no?
I don't know. They're definitions. They're how they fit into, it's how certain words fit into our zoning bylaws and what the intent of those words in our language are. I guess they're only there to aid in the bylaws, whether they need a hearing or not. I guess that's the question. I don't think we really knew one way or another whether they should.
We'll find that out. If it's not for vote tonight, that's fine. Please look over the definitions.
It's
We
just for
worked on those.
discussion.
So.
John?
My question is, that looking it over, I saw yellow highlight.
Those
Is
are
that the
ones-
only changes?
Those are the ones we're talking about.
And
Yeah.
what, the word that's highlighted, I'm gonna pick out one, junkyard. Is that just the word that has been changed, or that whole sentence after it? To be more definitive, maybe.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, John, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
I don't recall us making any changes to this. Junkyard and like light industry
Yeah.
are.
There isn't much that's yellow.
Well, I think I'm gonna go on a limb and say I don't know if the yellow is correct, because I know there's some changes in other things that aren't yellow, so
Okay.
I personally did not look this over before it came here. I think Chris is just working off a
I
copy.
think, I think some of it's markers for the planning commission.
Yeah.
We have,
Okay.
we are looking into language that deals with, junkyards are basically identified by state and state statute.
Yeah. I just
but-
picked that one out as an example, because I didn't know what I was looking at.
But it's a good one, and I like talking about it because we don't get any help at the planning commission with people coming in and hearing what we're talking about. But what we're looking at talking about is where people's properties are in maybe gross disarray, and there's nothing we currently can do about that, other than the health officer. You know, if there's something that crosses the line that he could deal with. We have nothing in our zoning, so we're trying to look into some of that. Light industry, there's some confusion about that in the bylaws and how, you know, what are we doing? You know, where does that go? And, because that exists in our bylaws. And David O'Branson from the zoning board had brought that up to me before, that there was some confusion between some of the, what we have, so.
I guess when it's reprinted, if it is reprinted again, it'd be helpful to see
Yeah.
any changes
Yeah.
in.
Yes,
I'll make sure that happens.
small
Thank you.
enterprise was a change.
Can we just agree to let this,
Yep.
let it go back to the planning board, please?
Yes.
Okay, good. Next up, update on the dump truck bid opening.
Okay, so on June 15th, the Weathersfield Select Board voted to advertise an RFP for the purchase of a tandem axle dump truck. Bids were due on July 15th of 2020 at 2 o'clock p.m. Our office received 4 bids from Weston Star and 1 bid from Reed Truck Services. And excuse me, I didn't mean to say, is it Weston Star or ATG?
It's ATG,
ATG.
2 Western Stars and 2 Freight liners.
A public bid opening took place downstairs. Mr. Harrison was present, Mr. Stapleton, and I, and Flo Ann. Attached are 5 bids and specifications. If you look at the following page, you'll see an updated bid sheet. This bid sheet shows the make, model, year, plow, wing, and sander body bid, the warranty bid, the price of the unit, the trade value of our existing truck, and the net cost. On the page following that is the 7-year trade-in value of the new truck once we buy it, and then decides that we want to trade it in. So these are the prices that each bidder gave to us, what they estimate the trade-in value would be. Following that are the actual bid sheets, and the specification checklist that we created. There's 5 pages, so you can either check yes or no, or list the deviations. Dave has all of the specifications at his table, so if anybody wants to see the specifications, you can pass them around. I sent them to everyone electronically. However, they're about 200 pages long, so I did not print one for everybody. It would have been 1,400 pages. So in an attempt to save some trees, Dave and I agreed to
Randy wanted to, and I just said, man, we're gonna have to cut down some line. To get that idea. Are there any questions about this?
I think the biggest question, well, the good news is, if you will, that Reed with the International actually met the specs better than either Freightliner or Western Star. What we do with the trade-in, they're offering us $8,500. We have the opportunity to send it down to State Line Mac, and they may or may not get more than that. Is it worth taking the risk for a couple $1,000s more?
And they charge $1,000.
How much?
State Line charges $1,000.
Right, they're going to get a $1,000 commission no matter what they get for it, so it behooves them to pedal it quickly and not work on our behalf. I think go with the 8,500. This town's history of trying to get rid of equipment has been something less than stellar. So I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of the new dump truck from Reed Truck Services for some not to exceed $198,020.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve the bid for the dump truck at, from the Reed bid at $198,020. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Todd.
My question was, Highway Superintendent, Board Rep, Town Manager, you're all in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Right there, that was where you guys were at. Well, I was just gonna ask, what was your recommendation? What did you all feel?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Dave, one thing, when you go over the warranty, it says only 3 years on the transmission, even on International, and they have verbally said that they'll give us 7 years on the transmission. I don't see that right.
It is, I checked with both vendors on that transmission warranty, and they're going to pick up where the Allison transmission picked up.
And that's in writing?
5 years. They're going to, it would be in writing when you do your
Okay,
purchase.
that's all I asked, that we put it in writing.
The other company did not have that warranty.
Right, it's an Allison transmission, and Allison's standard warranty is 3 years.
5.
5? Okay.
I'm trying to find here, but I can't seem to find it, and maybe it's in those little things right there. I did take note that, well, in a very obvious thing here is when you look at the cover sheet, the price advantage, you need to quantify that, because on 1, 2, 3 of the trucks, they're 21 models. On 2 of them, they're 2022 models. So you need to factor that in for 1 year of, anytime you go into somebody's car lot and you buy one away, you're taking double the first year hit away, just simply because of a year of manufacturing. I mean, it happens in cars and pickups and everything. I'm trying to find here, and I haven't taken time to do this, that I did appreciate. I saw a couple of models, but I have not seen the International, that what was the rear spring. because,
48.
It's 46,000.
okay, I did see a couple of the other ones, but I didn't find them. Page 2.
Page 2 on the front of the green truck one.
That was one of the first things we checked.
Dave,
Yeah.
Dave, that's gonna be right here.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
it,
so it's
yeah.
not in our packet?
No, it's
Correct.
No, the specifications are.
No, that's okay.
I highlighted them for you, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I see the 7-year trade value, and I don't agree with that, because our past history is we generally buy these things and they are here a lot longer, for a couple of reasons. One, there's something else to buy that takes precedence, or something breaks, or whatever else. So that's good that we're in this 46,000 RIA thing, because as I said before, when we wrote the original specs at 40,000 from the state truck, the state doesn't do what we do. One thing that bothers me on, and I to some extent we're bound to the low bids. I do agree with you, John, about trading, because I'm not sure that under any one of these pictures that it's worth to keep the other truck, because they're all going to be 10 or 12,000 or whatever it is in real dollars.
I'm not sure I've ever seen it
This-
work in our favor.
Yeah, it did one time. I think we got like 12 and a half. No, there was one time when we got 12 and a half for one on a trade. This will be, I don't think we have any international trucks in the fleet.
I don't know.
No,
Okay, we have one? Okay, because part of the beauty of having all the Macs at one time was that you went to one place to get that fixed. And now we have like 4, right? We've got Ford, International, Western Star, Freightliner.
Freightliner, Western Star.
I mean, we're just scattered all over the place for stuff. And I realize that in some sense that trucks are, the hood ornament says Freightliner and everything else is not. So, they have the engines. Did you guys, or what does the road crew say, the guys that are actually going to drive this? Because I remember when we got the Freightliner, and I'm not picking on them, but I will. All of a sudden it needed like 2 or 3 radiators. A truck's not a truck, as your father knows. So what does the crew say? Did they have a chance? And you have all these kinds now, and these are the kinds that bid. We have a Freightliner, we have a Western Star, and I'm not sure if it's safe to say that we don't have a Wheeler that's an international, but
The record on the vehicles is the 09 International has been pretty rock solid. Had a wiring issue years ago, and that was resolved. No suspension or frame issues, no fuse issues or electrical issues, knock on wood. There has been electrical issues and fuse issues on the Western Star, and the Freightliner has been pretty good. The guys that drive the Freightliner was the first 10-wheeler. It's comfortable, they like it, they don't mind it. It's like asking if you want a Ford or a Chevy, Dave, really. I mean, it's hard to give that,
But these are in the ballpark for me to make a decision that I would listen pretty hard for the money. I mean, they're pretty darn tight, and we're on the last line in our thing says, for whatever reason you want to pick out, you can accept or reject a bid. In some sense, for the taxpayers, you're obligated to pick the lowest one. But if I found out that, and I'm glad that the 46,000 RIAs were pointed out, one of the things that's associated with the longevity of trucks is a double frame.
you have a single frame on those.
They're single on the wheels?
Correct. Half-inch single frame. They're thicker, they're twice as thick, and they got rid of the double frame for rusting reasons.
One of the beauty of the Max, though, you take those frames out and you put rails in. Do it every day at Osgood and Menards.
Well, the beauty of these structures, you haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had to.
No, but a single frame won't allow you to do that.
Correct. You can still disconnect it at the same spot, replace the whole frame.
I just want to make the board aware that when this says a 7-year value, we've not traded trucks in 7 years.
And just to clarify, that's a number, that's to me, that's important to know what they're worth in 5, 6, 7 years down the road. So I picked 7. I could have said 10, I could have said 5.
All I'm trying to say is that I've always tried to think of the town as a whole, and meaning that, you know, there'll be a fire truck that comes up, there'll be some other thing that fits into that purchase, a loader, I'm not sure, a backhoe, I'm not sure what's coming up, in fact, this year. When does this get paid for first? Is it like the next year? When would delivery be taken?
Delivery's taken
This
as soon
fall?
as they get it done. September for International September.
With the
would be
chassis.
Truck would be in to go to the shop for the body. I did not see it on here for delivery date, November 15th for Freightliner.
So did all the bids incorporate the body work that they subbed out?
Yeah.
So this is a complete price.
Correct.
What was the article that was voted on by the town?
220.
Minus 75 from the sale of the old truck, plus 35 from reserves.
Right.
Well, both those monies are in reserves, but.
And at some point, we'll have to decide where to, this 21, or almost 22,000 extra approved by the voters. Whether to not borrow that much or to keep the money in the reserve.
Did the article say up to?
Yes.
Correct.
So I think we're probably bound by taking, if it was the low bid, you would fit in.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't take the full
We don't have
amount.
to decide tonight, but at some point, we have to decide where the money lands.
There's a motion on the floor to accept the bid by SG Reed. Did that motion also incorporate to take into consideration the trade? To enact the
That's the
trade?
way I worded it.
Okay, so that's,
The 198.20 includes the 8,500 deduct for the trade-in. Right.
yes, and the warrant, what was the warranty for? How many years?
On the International, it's a 7-year complete warranty. On the other two trucks, there was, the rear end and the front end were only 5, and the transmission was only 5.
And they can fix this thing at Reed's too, if it breaks, can they do the warranty work at Reed's, or do you have to bring it somewhere else?
They do it at Reed's. If it's Allison, you might have to go to an Allison, they might have to ship it off to an Allison dealer to get rebated. That's the only big
So
thing.
pretty local otherwise.
Okay, the motion been made and seconded to approve the diesel truck bid at a cost not to exceed $198,020 complete, accepting the trade-in price for our dump truck. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I missed who seconded the motion, I'm sorry.
Joey?
Thank you.
There's nothing saying we can't go to Reed's and ask for more on the trade-in. I mean, if you want to mess with them.
No, but the bid's gonna be whether we're gonna accept it tonight. If we were gonna do that, then I would ask that the board hold off. But if you're fine with the bid the way it is, I don't see he's gonna ask more. The only choice would be whether or not we accept the trade-in or not, but then you'd have to add 8,500 into that 198,020 and keep your truck and go somewhere else.
Yeah, have that old mess.
Yeah, it's a 24-year-old truck.
Yeah.
Fine, let's get it out of here.
I don't know.
It's done its job.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We had a little mix-up on the grader RFP, and in your packet, number 14 is some changes in our book that were asked to be made to the RFP, and Brandon called me and then started listing them, and I said, well, I think he asked me if it was okay just to amend them and stuff and then put it out, and when he started reading them off, I said, nah, some of these are like the material changes, so let it come before the board and see what you think. So has everybody had a chance to read some of them? Some of them are things like Bluetooth and a backup camera and a blade of some kind, and it was more of a definition of exactly what it is.
And another important inclusion in the RFP is the inclusion of a pre-bid conference. We did not do that with the dump truck, but I think moving forward, we should always have a bid conference where we can allow people to come in to the room and ask us questions at the same time, minutes be recorded, and then again to be put on the Vermont bid website and on our website. Because it seems like somebody may call me or they may call Ray and they have a question, the question gets answered, and that question and answer isn't recorded and passed along to all bidders to make it fair. So that's the change on page 1.
When I saw on the initial proposal where we were going to hold the company, and it's still here, the delivery of $150 per day late fee and everything like that. I'm not in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. We get to use our grader, and when the thing is accepted, really, I don't feel that I think when the day of acceptance comes, that it is important for the vendor to take possession of ours so that it doesn't break. But if it broke, it probably won't be our.
That carried over from the part of the bid that we used to make this
Yeah.
bid, and it was not supposed to be in there. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, so can we strike that?
Yep.
You know, do you read this under the general specification when it says,
Yeah, it's really weird. It shouldn't be in there.
yeah, the proposer must state the days of delivery and give it to us, or we're gonna charge you penalties, and no, because like I said, we get to use ours, and congratulations on the winning bidder. They get to take possession of it. So I'd like a motion to let the amended RFP go out for the road grader with the changes that have been noted on July 20th, 2020.
So move.
Is there a second?
Yep. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to have the amended RFP for the road grader go out to bid with the changes that have been noted in your packet, and that also one additional striking of the penalty for late fee of delivery. Any further discussion?
There is a line on the bid sheet for delivery date. There's just no damages either way.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight we have the third and final reading on conflict of interest, ethics policy, fraud prevention policy, investment banking policy, capitalization of assets policy. I haven't heard any changes to these, so tonight is the third and final reading of these changes. And at our next meeting, or I don't know how this works, whether we vote to accept them or.
Yep.
So on August 3rd, they'll be up for a vote to go into.
Can do it tonight, can't we, John?
Yeah.
We can vote tonight.
We can do it tonight.
Yeah.
It's the third
You
reading.
want to vote to accept?
I'll make a motion, we accept the conflict of interest, ethics conduct policy, fraud prevention policy, investment and banking policy, and capitalization of assets policy.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the policy, the four policies that have been noted. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Appointments, we do have Chris Whidden wants to be a member of the Parks and Rec committee. I'd like a motion to appoint him. So moved.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded to approve the appointment of Chris Whidden to the Parks and Rec committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nice. We go to, I'd like to note the other vacancies. We do have, if people were interested, for SAPA TV and Budget Committee, Connecticut River Joint Commission, Mount Scottney Subcommittee, Fence Viewer.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh.
Hi, Dave.
Go ahead.
I saw this on the agenda and I was talking to Flo Ann about this. I was trying to get to you before you got to your vote. I do not think think that he's allowed to be appointed as he isn't a Weathersfield resident.
Who?
Chris.
He is?
Yes, he is.
He lives in Baltimore.
No, he lives in
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Oh, I thought he was in. right
Okay.
on there.
Well, wait a minute, let's
That
look.
was a concern that Chloe and I had when we saw it on the agenda for tonight, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. And she was gonna look into it tomorrow to see if he was able to be appointed or not.
Okay, can we have a motion to rescind that appointment, at least temporarily, to find out whether it's allowed for
Sure.
residents only?
Since I made the motion, I'll make a motion that we rescind that.
And I'll
Just to
second,
allow-
and I will second that.
I'm not aware of requirement.
I'm not-
We've appointed Brandon to several different things, and he's not a resident either.
Of the state.
And I know statutorily that your members of your planning commission do not all have to be residents. A majority of the board has to be resident.
Really?
That's statutory.
Interesting.
Statute.
Okay, I don't think it's
why anybody
vital. I don't
from
think
another
it's vital.
town
I don't
would
think we're gonna hurt Chris's feelings.
You have these things.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
right, so.
Yes.
Do you need to vote too on that, or just the rescinding?
Can we just pause, can we take a pause on that, and then we'll take it up at the next meeting? Although we voted, we took a vote, so we're gonna have to
I
have
just
a
made a
motion
motion
to
to pull
rescind
it,
that.
to
Yes.
rescind that, to pull
Yes.
that
And
back.
I seconded it.
Motion been made and seconded to reconsider the appointment and to void temporarily the appointment of Chris Whidden until we get clarification. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I don't think you have to be a resident either, but that's. Warrants.
Make a motion to approve warrant articles for July 20th, 2020. General fund payroll, $15,375.20. Operating, $26,734.71. Highway payroll, $9,118.90. Operating, $6,410.96. Solid waste payroll, $1,704.48, operating $4,272.94. Library payroll, $1,907.60. Grants, $8,108.51. Total payroll, $28,106.18. Operating $45,537.12.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the warrants on July 20th, 2020. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Is there any other business that was not on the agenda?
Your executive session.
I just want to go on, can I say something?
Yes.
I just want people to know on EDs that we're going to be working on Katy Hill for the next month. We've been starting to do culvert replacements. Katy Hill, Perkinsville, and Ditcher, the month of August, so.
Katie Hill or Perkinsville?
Katy and Perkins.
And Perkins. Is the road gonna have to be closed?
It will be at times, yes.
Okay.
I've been talking to the police and that fire, we're notifying them in the mornings.
Okay.
So we've already done 3 culverts, we have 4 more to do.
Motion for executive session for personnel, please. The 6-month town manager review.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
1 hour, 47 minutes.